Hey everyone, welcome to week 5. I can't believe we're already here. Don't forget your papers are due by the end of the week, so if you should have any questions, please feel free to email me. I did want to touch on something because in reading your past papers, I wanted to commend you because a lot of you, I really saw relate text to the theory, and a lot of you chose such great populations that are really disadvantaged in our society. And I was really proud to see that you picked those populations, and those were the populations that you're looking to work with. So I really wanted to commend you on that. Secondly, I saw a lot of APA issues in your paper, so I do want you to be mindful of that. So please make sure you're citing things correctly, in text, out of text, what a direct quote would be, because I don't want you guys losing silly points for something like that. So this week we're going to be talking about mental health and the criminal justice system as well, and how they both intertwine. So mental health in general can be treated in an outpatient level as well as an inpatient and residential level. Now, mental health is a broad term, and that covers a lot of different diagnoses, as we all know. So in an outpatient setting, you could be dealing with some less dangerous diagnoses, such as generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder sometimes, personality disorders such as borderline personality disorder, narcissistic, histrionic. Those are easily treated in outpatient because of the fact that those are populations that really love to talk. Talk therapy really, really helps those people who are diagnosed with these disorders, and talk therapy for them is really, really beneficial. So for the more, I hate to say more serious disorders, but for some disorders that are considered a little bit more dangerous, those would be treated in an inpatient level. So for example, people that are showing active psychosis, who may be in paranoia or aggression, bipolar disorder with mania. And with mania, you can be aggressive, you can be hypersexual, you can be hyperverbal, you can even be paranoid as well in your manic state. If you are in addiction but an active withdrawal, that definitely requires an inpatient level of care. And major depressive can be treated inpatient with active suicidal thoughts or active homicidal thoughts to hurt other people. So those are what I would classify more as a dangerous diagnosis, to see that they can't be treated always in the outpatient level because of the fact that a lot of them are in a state of crisis. So they need more stabilization before they're able to step down to a lower level of care. So these types of patients are often really hard with medication compliance because a lot of the patients that have trouble in an inpatient level are because they are non-medication compliant. And they could be aware to your state for involuntary commitments. And you may find some of these clients in a group home setting or have been to the state hospital before. So as a social worker, for us, medication is a good thing and a bad thing, because you're going to have patients who do not believe in medication. You're going to have patients who continue to come back and see you because, unfortunately, they stopped taking their medication again. They were feeling wonderful and happy and good, and they felt that they didn't need the medication anymore, which they're not understanding that the medication is helping them feel positive and happy. So a lot of our job is really educating patients on helping them understand how medication can help, and also helping them understand that medication is not 100% effective all of the time. So we really need to educate them, because a lot of people feel, let's say, for example, if I'm on 25 milligrams of Prozac, now I've aged, maybe I've gained more weight, my depression is starting to come back. But for me, I've been on 25 milligrams of Prozac my entire life. So to think that I would need an increase is unimaginable to me. So sometimes us as social workers, we need to help educate patients on medication, because if I grow up and I've gained weight, the way my body metabolism the medication is going to be extremely different from when I was younger and 25 milligrams worked for me. So really helping patients understand stuff like that is really important. Also helping them understand that medication isn't the fix-all, that therapy and medication can assist patients to live a happy and healthy life. They can't just assume that, by taking, let's go back to Prozac, if I take my Prozac 25, everything's going to be better. That's not true. Talk therapy and other types of therapy with my Prozac can assist me. And a lot of times patients don't understand that as well. So really being an education and a teacher to patients about medication is key in the social work profession, because a lot of the time they don't know, and they rely on us to educate them in that aspect. So another thing I wanted to touch on is safety, because safety in general is huge in the outpatient setting and in the inpatient setting especially. In outpatient setting, you really want to make sure that you are sitting closest to the door, that if your patient for whatever reason should become loud, become aggressive, you're able to stand up and you could be the first one out of the door compared to a patient blocking your exit. I also recommend that you don't have anything sharp or dangerous in your office that a patient could take and use as a mean of self-harm or anything like that. On an inpatient setting as well, you're going to be dealing with a lot of more aggressive patients. They're definitely going to be very loud. They're going to be very vocal, because a lot of them are there involuntarily, but there are patients there who are voluntarily as well. So for working in an inpatient or residential setting, I always say, take extreme caution when working with patients that are extremely aggressive or in active psychosis, because you really want to make sure that you look around, you see all of your exits. You don't ever take a patient like that into a closed room where nobody can see you. You want to make sure that you're out in the milieu and you are speaking with a patient maybe at the end of the hallway, so it's private to them, but yet other staff can see you to assure that you're safe. Now, I wanted to touch on documentation for a moment, because a lot of your agencies that you're working with or going to be working with are going to use a lot of different formats of documentation. But whether it's a live chart that you handwrite or you type your notes in, or it's an electronic medical record that everything is on the computer, you need to make sure that you're actively documenting signs and symptoms and your clinical opinion about that patient and their progress or their level of dangerousness. Because unfortunately, we live in a world that's ruled by insurance companies. And I hate to say that, but it is true, because if I'm going to sit here and I'm going to document that a patient is calm, cooperative, has a positive affect, is not feeling depressed, not feeling suicidal, then the insurance company is going to look and say, okay, then why do they need 6 more sessions of outpatient? Or why do they need 6 more days of inpatient treatment? So you really need to be careful about the way that you document, and always making sure that if the patient truly is feeling that way, then you're in that ending phase, that you're making sure that things are wrapping up, because that's where a patient should be, in the ending phase. But if you're not in the ending phase, then we really should not be documenting that way, because unfortunately our time will get cut short because of the way that we're documenting. So I really want you guys to be mindful of that as you're working in your internships and things like that. So now, we are also unfortunately going to have sometimes families that cannot afford medication or cannot afford the copays that they have for either you or the medication. So it's really important to provide the families resources such that they can work with families who can't afford treatment, and referring them to programs that can help are extremely essential, because without those programs that the state has, unfortunately, our patients are stuck in a system where, let's say they are prescribed Abilify and their insurance doesn't cover that, they themselves now have no medication. So they can go back to their psychiatrist and maybe they get, let's say, for example, Risperdal, but Risperdal doesn't help like Abilify did for that patient. So unfortunately, you're going to meet patients like that too, who one medication worked a lot better, but the insurance company won't authorize it. And that's a hard thing to counsel patients through, because they often feel like how they're disadvantaged in the society when it comes to that. So you're going to get a lot of hopelessness and helplessness, but also helping them understand that once again, it's not all about medication. It's about talk therapy as well, and other types of therapies to help them get through whatever is big in their life for them. So now moving on to the criminal justice system and mental health. And unfortunately, I don't like to say this, but it is extremely intertwined. A lot of the police force does not understand mental health. For example, I do work in a hospital. So, for example, we had a patient who was extremely psychotic. They came in handcuffs, and you could clearly tell he was responding to internal stimuli. And the police officers, unfortunately, they did not understand how mental health worked and how and who he was and how he was experiencing and what he was saying. And unfortunately, it became aggressive between a patient and a police officer because of the things the police officer was saying and doing. And now, unfortunately, this psychotic patient being admitted to the hospital now is going to have pending charges because of the assault on the police officer. So, unfortunately, we have a lot of our mental health population in the criminal justice system, just even due to instances just like that, for example. So really, the criminal justice system is based on, obviously, if you've committed a wrongful act, but sometimes our patients, they don't know the difference between right and wrong because, unfortunately, they are psychotic, or they are under the influence with their addiction, or they're extremely depressed and all they can think about is wanting to hurt themselves or wanting to hurt other people. So it gets very much intertwined, and the care in the criminal justice system is not where it should be. Some states are a lot further along than others, but unfortunately, some jails and correctional facilities don't have a nurse or don't have a doctor, so there is no medication being prescribed. You hear all the time that unfortunately there are suicide attempts in jail because people are just extremely depressed, and there sometimes are no programs. Some jails are a lot better at having therapy groups, and others do not have any therapists in them. So unfortunately, we have people who are extremely mentally ill stuck in the criminal justice system just because people don't understand how to talk to people who have mental health problems. And I think as a social worker, we really need to make sure we're a strong advocate for this population, because unfortunately, we are going to get even as young as adolescents and children who get in trouble with the law because of their own mental health. So really educating the criminal justice system is something that is really very much a part of our job. Probation officers, some of you may even be petitioned to go to court one day, and helping them understand how patients work and how they think and why, unfortunately, they know that this act maybe not at that time was wrong, but now they do because they've been going through therapy, they're on the proper medication, they've had the proper treatment. So that's a really, really big thing in our profession, and we really need to make sure we're advocating for this population who unfortunately is stuck in the criminal justice system. Now, for example, unfortunately, we've had a lot of shootings in our country over the past few years. And when you look at some of those cases, you really break down the perpetrator of those shootings. And if you really dig into them, you see that a lot of the teachers in the school said, I knew if it was going to be a shooter one day, it was going to be that boy. It was going to be him. He was always weird. He always looked depressed. He just always looked like there was something wrong with him. But my question would be, why did nobody say anything? Why did nobody get this young man help? Why did nobody reach out to the parents and ask if they were going to get him help? Those are questions that unfortunately we can't answer now, but those are questions I always want you to think about, because when you see big cases like that on the news, you always see that people were bystanders in someone who was suffering from mental health, but nobody took the time to ask what was going on. So now, unfortunately, yes, they all have committed wrongful acts and hurt very many people, but now they will sit in jail for the rest of their lives. And when they finally get the treatment that they deserve and need, they will be in jail for the rest of their life, and they will feel so much regret and guilt. So just a thought. So I hope this kind of gave a overview of the topic this week, guys. I'm very passionate about mental health, and I think we all are, because a lot of you, when I read your papers, a lot of you are very much passionate as well. So what I would like you to do, if you are watching this, if you could email me what diagnosis you feel uncomfortable to work with and why. And if you do this and you feel like you want an extension on your paper that's due on Sunday, you can get it, and it will be due 11:59 on Monday. All right, everyone, have a very happy Thanksgiving. Please enjoy everything with your family, and I will see you next week. Okay.